Hello friends and welcome to this video on Authentic English, and in this video we're going to discuss Socrates and Plato. As you know, they are great Greek philosophers, and they become important in the study of literature because they have had their own opinions on literature, and we're going to study those. And if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please do that right now because I'm going to upload regular videos on English literature which are going to help you a lot in your studies. So, without wasting much time, let's begin with Socrates. And his exact timeline is not known. I mean, the time of his life. So, the guess dates around 470 to 399 BC. And he's considered the father of philosophy, especially the father of Western philosophy. One of his most famous quotes says, "Education is the kindling of a flame, not the filling of a vessel." Now, here are some facts about Socrates that you can keep in your mind. Okay, so these are not very important, but you need to keep certain facts about them in your mind. First moral philosopher of the Western world. So he emphasized on morality, good conduct. Didn't write anything on his own. His students were the one who wrote on his behalf. So we do not have any surviving accounts written himself by Socrates. In fact, he spoke out to his students, and they in turn wrote what he said. And interestingly, one of his most famous students include Plato, and he served in the Athenian army. Plato and Xenophon were his students. Okay, so these were two of his important students. Socrates learned from his fellow men and surroundings. He himself considered him not very wise. So he gained knowledge from what he saw around him. Okay, knowledge from experience, you can say. He himself considered him not very wise. Okay, he did not consider himself to be very wise. He said that a wise man knows that he is a fool. He believed in this concept. He learned everything from his surroundings, made distinction between knowledge and belief, knowledge greater than belief, and Plato was a major source of Aristotle's life. Fine, one of his students, Plato, was a major source of Aristotle's life. In fact, Socrates' life, not Aristotle's. Okay, this is a misprint here. It should be Socrates. One thing only I know, and that is I know, that is that I know nothing. So this is what Plato believed in, that one thing only I know, and that is that I know nothing. So he believed that yes, his wisdom comes from not knowing anything. Okay, he faced trial in 399 BC and was killed by being fed on hemlock because he was probably involved in questioning the state of Athens. So he quizzed people around him, and he was thought to be a bad influence on the youth of Athens. Like he was, people thought, the government of Athens at that time thought that yes, he's instigating people against the government, and hence he was tried and killed in 399 BC by being fed on hemlock. So the trial of Socrates is something that you need to keep in mind. He was involved also in correcting people to ways of moral righteousness. He was called the gadfly of Athens. Okay, so this is another name. He was found to corrupt the mind of Athens youth and impiety. Plato's Phaedo describes his death. Okay, so as I said that the only major source of his life comes from the accounts of his students. So Plato wrote a book called Phaedo in which he describes his death. People thought that he is corrupting the minds of the youth, and because of course he was a philosopher, he was ahead of his times. He was not thinking what was generally found to be acceptable during those times, and so he was tried and killed. Now, one thing that you need to keep in mind, Socratic method or elenchus. Fine, a method of questioning adopted by Socrates in which he questioned individuals to develop critical thinking and to find truth. It is based on logic and reason. So what is Socratic method? In which Socrates asked questions to a person like, what is this? What do you think about this? Why do you think so? To arrive at a general truth. It was based on logic and reason. So this is called the Socratic method or elenchus. You can just keep the name in mind, it's not all very important. Socratic problem, contradiction in the secondary sources that provide information on Socrates. So we know about Socrates from all the secondary sources, from the account of his students and other people. So there is some mismatch between those sources. Some say that Socrates was like this, some say that he was like this. So that is the Socratic problem. There is not much known of Socrates' beliefs distinct from those of Plato. So Plato is a major source, the biggest source in fact. Socrates objected to democracy, Plato's republic, but that is a debatable topic. But you can debate that why he objected to democracy, and some even say that he was actually a supporter of democracy, but that has very little evidence. Generally, it's believed that Socrates objected to democracy. He believed only philosophers can make good rulers. Okay, so this is important, that Socrates thought that philosophers are only capable of making good rulers, a thought that we'll find also in Plato. Now Plato was born circa 428, and he continued to live up to 347 BC in Athens, Greece. Born in a socially and politically powerful family, he was a student of Socrates and was deeply hurt by his death. Okay, so he was a student, and of course, he was deeply hurt by the death of his teacher, Socrates. Pythagoras was also one of Plato's influences, was a philosopher who founded academy. So Plato founded academy. So this is like a school in which various subjects are taught. So back in those days, okay, he founded the first school of Western thought, which is the academy, the first higher educational institute in the Western world. He believed in the power of education. So schools opened in the modern Western world very late, but he in those times in BCs he opened the first school called academy. During Plato's time, art was degenerate and was an object of criticism. So during his time, art was criticized, and Plato also will criticize art. We'll see how. Plato will also object to art, claiming it degenerates and corrupts society. He was a believer of oligarchy, a small group of people capable of ruling. For him, philosophers. So he believed that a small group of people only are capable of ruling, and in that case, it was philosophers. That philosophers can only make good kings. Direct democracy, he believed, was not good and also perhaps led to Socrates' death. So he thought that direct democracy is not good. Platonist philosophy comes from Plato. So when we talk about Platonists, Neoplatonists, it's the philosophy of Plato. Plato and Aristotle are one of the biggest philosophers of the Western world, whose thinking influenced and continue to influence multitude of people. Let's look at some works in philosophy of Plato. He wrote in form of dialogues and debates. In Apology, so Apology is one of the works, you can note it down. Apology, there exists a character of Socrates who defends himself against the charges labeled on him. So basically, he's trying to show that Socrates was wrongly killed. So in his work Apology, there exists the character of Socrates who will defend himself from the charges that are labeled against him. In Republic, he discusses the idea of a proper government, and some of that is written here, that athletic training is compulsory. And of course, he believed in the idea of a philosophical king. This is very important, that he believed that a king needs to know philosophy. Other works include Ion, Georgias, Symposium, and Phaedrus. Need to know. Allegory of Caves, a part of the Republic. So Allegory of the Cave is a part of the Republic, is an important work and will be discussed in detail along with the theory of forms. So first of all, let's discuss theory of forms. Now theory of forms, very simply put, divides the world into two realms. One is the physical realm and the other is the spiritual realm. According to him, the physical world that we can see around us, that we can touch, is not the real world, whereas reality exists beyond the physical world. World, physical realm plus spiritual realm. So our world is composed of two things, two realms: physical realm and spiritual realm. Physical, material, not perfect, ever changing. So physical realm is not perfect, it's ever changing. And spiritual realm is a realm of forms and ideas beyond physical world. Physical world is a shadow of the spiritual realm. So he gives an example of a chair. We see various kinds of chairs around us. So a chair is an ever changing thing, but the idea of a chair, that it will have four legs and it has supposed to make one sit on itself, exists in the mind. It exists in the spiritual realm and it is constant. So whereas we can have various kinds of chairs in the physical world, the idea of a chair is going to be in the spiritual realm and it is going to be constant. So he believed basically in that what we see around us is not the truth, and truth exists beyond this physical world that we can see around us. So what are forms? Forms, abstract, unchanging, perfect, transcends time and space. So the forms, the ideas in the mind, okay, they are the forms. In the spiritual realm, they are abstract, unchanging, perfect, and transcends time and space. Everyone's conception of a physical reality can differ. Like the pictures of a concept will come out different. Concept and ideal of square resides in realm of forms. Whatever one makes is a shadow. So this is very important. Like, the idea of a square exists in the mind and it is unchanging, but when one draws the picture of a square, then that is not the real square that is drawn. It is not real. Everybody can draw a different square. Okay, so the first idea of square is real, but the idea in the mind of individual people can vary, and also when they draw it out on a piece of paper, then it's just an imitation. Okay, it's just an imitation, it's not real. And that's why he'll say later on that art is only imitation. Art is nothing new. When an artist paints the picture of a chair, it is thrice removed from reality. He'll talk about it later. Why? Because the perfect idea of a chair exists in the mind of somebody, exists in the mind, exists in the spiritual realm. Then a carpenter makes that chair, so that's just an imitation of the concept of a chair. But when the artist draws the picture of a chair, it's again the imitation of the chair made by a carpenter. So that's why it's thrice removed from reality. Individual green things exist, but green as an entity does not. So let's talk about the example of green. So individual green things can exist everywhere, but green as an entity does not. Physical stuff is only an imitation of the reality. So when we say that these leaves are green, so that color is only the imitation of the concept of green. This is the theory of imitation or mimesis, or the theory of forms, as you would like to call it. So this is important in order to understand the views of Plato on poetry and art. Plato's view on poetry: art is mere imitation and therefore deceptive. I told you why it's imitation, because it copies. An artist draws. Art is imitation and therefore deceptive. Example: chair is an imperfect conception of the idea of a chair. This physical chair was a copy of the idea of a chair, and now art is its copy. So I told you that the idea of a chair is real, then a carpenter makes the chair, then it's the copy of the idea of a chair. And then when an artist makes the drawing of a chair, it's the copy of the chair made by the carpenter. Hence, art is thrice removed from reality. Art can make one believe that imitation is reality, and therefore he says that art wants us to believe that what is not true, what is imitation, is actually real. It encourages passion instead of reason. So art, according to him, is irrational. It's full of feelings and not rational. It is not the result of conscious judgment. It can deviate one from truth and what is right. Poetry and other arts are useless. So this is something very important. He does not believe that they have any importance or value. And also he believes that art leads to immorality. In dramas, there is portrayal of the corruption of gods, violence and evil. So you must have read that there is a depiction of all sorts of violence and violence, etc., in the works of artists like Homer. It's full of violence, so it can lead to immorality. Other ideas of Plato: discussion on metaphysics, philosophy that deals with reality. What is reality? Knowledge and reason is divine according to him, and knowledge is justified through belief. Now we are going to discuss the theory of caves, but for that, just wait a moment. Yeah, so we are going to discuss the allegory of the cave in a very brief manner. Part of the Republic, dialogue between Plato and his brother Glaucon. So this allegory of the cave, two people are involved in this dialogue, Plato and his brother Glaucon. You need to keep this in mind, and it's part of the Republic. Look at the diagram that is on your screen. So there is a cave in which sunlight is coming from one corner, the right hand side corner, and it says exit. Daylight shining into cave. Now you see there is a wall, and there is a shadow of the spectacle, and there are captives. Look at the label called captives. Those are people who are sitting, and one cave dweller. You see there is a cave dweller who has burnt a fire. This is just one version of the Republic to explain you what the allegory of the cave is. It's very simple. Don't get baffled by the diagram. So there is a cave dweller who has burnt a fire, and now it's reaching the other side. Okay, so the captives are looking at the shadow of the deer or the spectacle that is put on the wall by the cave dweller. Look at the diagram. So what are these captives seeing is the shadow of this animal. Okay, and they are thinking that this is reality. What are they thinking? That this is reality. They are only looking at a shadow on the wall which is caused because of the fire that is burning behind them. And these captives, these people who are in jail, okay, they think that these prisoners, they think that this is reality. See, there is one of the prisoners or the captive, a captive who got rid of his ties walking towards daylight. Now, one of these captives is going towards the sun. He is moving towards the exit to the land of philosophia. So, this captive who moves out and sees the real world and sees the real animal will then come back and tell the other captives what he has seen outside. ओके, सो अभी तक आप देख रहे थे कि ये लोग सिर्फ परछाई देख रहे हैं एक जानवर की. अब इसने जाके देखा कि असली जानवर क्या है, और हम लोग जो देख रहे हैं सिर्फ उसकी परछाई है. तो ये आएगा और अपने बाकी कैदियों को बताएगा आकर कि देखो देखो, ये तो हम लोग सच्चाई देख ही नहीं रहे हैं, हम लोग तो जो देख रहे थे अभी तक वो सब झूठ था. तो वो बताता है ये कैदी जो बाहर निकल जाता है ये फिलोसोफर के समान है. सो दिस इज एन एलेगरी. This captive who gets to go outside is just like the philosopher who will tell the truth to the prisoners. So the common man is like a prisoner in this world, and the one who goes out is like a philosopher, and it is the task of the philosopher to tell the truth to the people. Okay, so this is what the allegory of the cave means. Prisoners think that shadows are reality. Prisoners represent uneducated or common people. A philosopher is a prisoner freed from the cave and one who gets to see the real world. He understands that the shadows are not reality. Hence, a philosopher can tell the truth to the common ignorant man. So Plato believes that philosophers are the most important people on earth, and they are the ones who are capable of being the king. Remember, I told you that he believes in the idea of the philosophical king. So make sure that you note all of this down in your notebook, and this is going to help you a lot if you're asked any question on Plato and Socrates. So this is it for this video. If you have any questions related to these things, you can ask in the comment box below. Okay, thank you so much guys, and bye bye.